This podcast contains some strong language and some stories involving violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Warfighters United, where veterans' voices are heard and transitional resources and programs provided. This podcast is brought to you by the VFW, a service organization that provides our service members and veterans resources and representation throughout the nation. They provide the community support and the camaraderie we all miss, so join the VFW today and make a difference. Today in studio, I have Douglas Brinker. He is an author of a book called My Dark Shadow. He's also the mental health coordinator for the VFW. Welcome to Warfighters United, Doug.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so you just released a book, but before we go into that, I'd like to talk about your military service for a little bit. You joined the United States Navy in 1981?
81, right out of high school.
And your military occupational specialty was?
Boatswain's mate. Or a ship driver.
A ship driver.
An Uber driver is what the Marines call us.
Oh, okay. All right. And so you served in Beirut, Lebanon?
Yes.
What was that like?
Interesting, because all I did was drive 1 mile out, 1 mile over, 1 mile in, 1 mile over, repeated. And then once a week we'd go out 50 miles, dump trash, come back in, and repeat it all again. And it was eye-opening because towards the end of that 6 weeks, they offered, for a small fee, they offered a chance for us that wanted to go ashore and go on a bus with Marines, M16s, all that. And we got to tour the streets and see the rubble. We got to meet people that were thankful that we were there. We actually went to the city of Byblos and learned about the beginning of time. We went to a church that was built back in like the 12th or 13th century. We stood at a olive tree, and below that olive tree and hill was hieroglyphics written on a slated wall, and it was believed that Jesus once did readings, speaking to the disciples and other followers in that area.
Now, you got out in 1984 and you went to the reserves, and then you joined the Michigan Army National Guard?
Yes, I was out for 3 years inactive due to administrative errors, not on my part. But anyways, I did join the 1461st Transportation Unit in Jackson for 3 years, got bored, got out, was out for 10, and then October of 2002, I went back in, sworn in actually by then a Spec 4 armor, good friend, now deceased Captain Dennis McCarran. But anyways, we ended up getting sworn in by someone who was same rank as me when I got out the first time. But yes, I stayed in, and then 2004 come around, volunteered to deploy as a detachment unit with the 1462nd Trans Unit out of Howell to Iraq.
I was there in Iraq also in 2004. And it's funny, you mentioned the hieroglyphics. When we were at Uday's Palace, ancient ruins of Babylon, we were the first ones to take that over.
Okay.
And, make that a base for our commanding general. And so we would take tours all around the ancient ruins of Babylon, and there would be rocks of the wall that have fallen off that had the hieroglyphics on there and Arabic writing. And so, us being us, I took a big chunk of it and, put it in my pack thinking, no, be no problem. Make it home. Yeah. I'll have a nice little artifact. And right as we were about to hit Kuwait, they said, if you had any of these things, you better get rid of it. And so here I was. I had carried this, 4 or 5 pound chunk around in my pack for months. And I had to just throw it over the side because I definitely was not getting caught carrying that back because it's a historical artifact. So when you went with the National Guard, where were you at in Iraq?
I was up in Camp Anaconda in Balad. LSA, logistics support. So we went to Beirut, or we went to the other side of Fallujah to that camp every day, sometimes twice a day. We took Connex boxes with 915 tractor trailers. And when we weren't hauling Connex boxes, we were hauling pallets that were 25, 30 feet in height with the webbing, the nets and everything over it strapped down.
What was that? So compared to Beirut and Lebanon, and then now you're in Iraq, was there any similarities between, just how they all didn't have some of the capabilities that, other cities did?
In Beirut, I wasn't getting shot at. We weren't having to, obviously, being in the Navy, even when we were on shore, it was friendly atmosphere, but you had to watch your six at all times.
Especially being in convoys.
Yeah, especially being in convoys.
I mean, IEDs started evolving around 2004. That's when they started taking all the ammunition and making the improvised explosive devices on the side of the roads. Did you guys ever get hit by any of those? Or
I personally didn't, but we did have other trucks in the convoy. We did take small arms fire a couple of times, which it was interesting because they up-armored your vehicle with a half-inch piece of plexiglass and sandbags on the floorboard and on the air tanks and said that was safe. But we weren't allowed to fire our weapon into that plexiglass to test it because then you're going to get wrote up for wrongful discharge of your weapon.
Yep. And that was before Demer and all the corporations started giving our Humvees the V-beds.
Right.
That way the explosion would ricochet off. And it was funny, in 2003, when we invaded Iraq, I was with Sergeant Major McKinney, and he had a sergeant that was his nephew that was serving in East Baghdad. And he woke up one day, and apparently his sister had emailed him saying her son hadn't contacted her in a bit. So Sergeant Major put us all in Humvees, and we had to go find this guy. And we went and found him, and it was two Humvees. We had the 50 cals mounted, and we were all hanging out with our feet outside the door. We had no doors. And, that was in 03, but in 04, you could never get away with that.
No.
Just because of how the war started evolving. And so you got out you deployed in 2004. When did you get out of the Michigan National Guard?
2004. I was medically, so I received on Memorial Day, 2004, I received a deadly near-fatal staph infection from the sand. On the front of my big toe, my left foot, a scrape from jumping in and out of the trucks during ambush attacks had occurred prior about 2 weeks, I'm assuming, according to what the doctors speculate. And the bacteria from the sand entered my bloodstream and began to fester.
Like MRSA?
On MRSA. It was a cellulitis staph infection. And it ended up, when I woke up that Memorial Day 2004 to get ready to get cleaned up and get ready to go out to the motor pool and get my truck ready for the next mission, I stood up and I fell over and thought, no big deal because I'm 6'4", the bunk is about 5 foot, 5.5 foot. So I just made the assumption that, my legs had fallen asleep. I picked myself up and started to take a few more steps, hit the deck again. It's like, okay, well, there's something wrong now. So I went and told my squad leader, my platoon sergeant. They sent me up to the truck master, and the truck master's a former ranger. You know what, drivers, you'll get out of anything for a convoy. You'll do anything. You'll say anything. No, First Sergeant. I wish that was the case. But anyways, they ended up taking me up to the cache. They checked my temp as 104. Sergeant at the desk said, Sergeant, you better go sit down. So sat down for just a few seconds, and they called me back, and the colonel came in, and a whole bunch of doctors came in, and they had me drop my trousers. And Colonel says, "Sergeant, have you even looked at your legs this morning?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "You might want to look down and look at them." And from my kneecap down to my ankle was candy apple red, swollen to 18.6 inches in diameter. My ankle was swollen to 10.5 inches. And you could feel the heat about 4 inches off of my leg. It had stretched to a point where it stretched any further, it would begin to shred open. That's how bad the infection was.
Yeah, MRSA's no joke.
No.
I actually had MRSA in boot camp. I actually spent almost 16 weeks in boot camp because I got quarantined at Balboa Hospital, and it was from the top of my leg, and it was the size of a football. And with MRSA, there's no, not like cellulitis where stuff comes out.
Right.
That's into your muscles. It's into everything, and it swells up. So I know what you're talking about with that. That's no fun at all, but it sounds like you had it a lot worse than I ever did.
And they said it was the colonel said it was the third worst symptom of a staph infection that he had ever seen in his medical career. And they ended up, June 3rd, they put me on the flight line to get me out of country, medevac me out. And the major from the Air Force, she was so concerned. First, she wanted to make me a study because she taught medicine back at the University of Missouri. It
sounds like the military to me. They always want to make something a study if they don't see it very often.
Anyways, I had to sign a bunch of waivers. Then they put me on the plane, and just as the plane was getting ready to take off, or slightly before, I don't remember now, my blood pressure dropped to 86/54. They were really concerned about flying me to Germany because the C-130 is not equipped for emergency hospital stuff. So anyways, they did it. I landed and got the launch stool, and I was in bed for 5 days. On the fifth day, they ended up taking and allowing me to go out and explore. But I couldn't obviously drink because of all the meds. They had me on shots of Ansef on both sides of my stomach. They were just pumping me with all kinds of... They gave me a doctor's cocktail of the 4 strongest antibiotics made on the market, and it wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing as fast as it was supposed to be doing it. So anyways, I went to Liechtenstein, took a cab, cost me like $150 in American money round trip, and got to go to the oldest castle built in Germany, and ordered a soda and got a spritzer water. know the language of Germany before you ask for something.
No, of course.
But I did enjoy that time. I came back. Then they flew me to Andrews, from Andrews to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, government waste.
Yeah.
And then from Scott, actually, I went to a concert, and I had a 2-star general approach me and asked me about up armor. I said, "Sir, with all due respect, I'm the wrong person to ask." He said, "No, I used to be a truck master. I know what you guys go through." So I told him, and he said, "Well, we'll work on that." Of course, I, got medevaced to Fort Knox, where I was in Medhole for 4.5 months, where I was going to the clinic every day complaining, and finally the colonel of the clinic told me, "Sergeant, you come to my clinic one more time for the same reason. I'm going to write you up." So November 4th of 2004, they discharged me. They flew me first back in September. They flew me to Fort Lewis, where I appealed my rating decision because they gave me 20%. And I met with a JAG officer, and this captain, she told me, "Sergeant, you go into that exam room, that panel, they're going to give you less than 20%. Just enjoy this vacation, go back home, you'll qualify for voc rehab." So long story short, I got discharged, came home, and signed up for voc rehab and started college at 43 years old.
And so when did you start with the VFW? Because I know now you are the mental health administrator for the VFW state of Michigan.
I started with the VFW, I think 2011, 2012, somewhere around 2013. And I signed up because I was going to then Eastern Michigan University, where I received my bachelor's in communication degree, and joined through going to Student Veterans of America. I belonged to that group at Eastern, and they ended up having a mixer, and one of the president then invited me to consider joining the VFW.
It wasn't
and I did.
Blunky, was it?
Nope, not my good friend Derek. It was actually Adam Betts. Adam, in fact, his dad, we have our name, going up to the post, Betts Drive. Mm-hmm. It was named after his dad. But anyways, he was one that got me signed up, and I'm a 3-time past post commander, all-state commander. I'm currently a 2-year trustee. And then I'm the 6th District Senior Vice Commander, and I've been appointed now, this is my 7th appointment by each state commander as a mental health, welfare, wellness director.
And so what got you into becoming the mental health welfare director?
Speaking with late past state commander Mike, he took and we got to talking, and he said he had shared that he was a survivor himself of suicide attempt. And he said, when I become state commander, I'm going to appoint you as my PTS director. And it's obviously since changed to mental health. And so each commander asked me for the appointment. And I have served under some phenomenal state commanders thus far, including our current Reinhold Janka, who hails from Springport, Michigan, and is I served under as his District 6 adjutant for 2 years.
He's got the best white beard I've seen in a long time.
That's as close to Santa Claus as you're going to get in the VFW. But I work in mental health. I have for 7.5 years. For another 30 days till October 3rd, I'm retiring. And now, listeners, if you're doing the math, 30 days from now is not October 3rd. That's 30 work days, calendar days on the books I have till retirement. But that's just retirement from punching the clock. That is not by no means retiring, because I'm not resting until all veteran suicides are eradicated.
Yeah, and so when I was talking to Blunky the other day, it kind of drove me a little crazy because they, across the platforms, they say, oh, it's down to 17 a day. 17 a day. It dropped from 22 to 17, but when you actually start taking, somebody who's just taking active duty, reservists, they're taking the numbers that made it 22 out, and of course those numbers are going to go down. Why would they do that?
Yeah, that's a different podcast for the politics of those numbers.
No,
but in reality, in my opinion, if you are not reporting as a family member that your loved one took their life by suicide, then it's unexpected. We don't know. It's those numbers that are actually reported on a coroner's report. So there's 4 codes that indicate death by suicide.
Okay.
If you choose not to list that, then the coroner's going to put something else so that life insurance still can't be collected, but yet it's still unexpected.
Okay.
No, not saying all unexpected deaths are suicide. Right. Not even close. But it doesn't matter whether it's 22, 17, 15, 40.
Still way too many.
In reality, what I've heard from other organizations, the real number's somewhere around 42.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Unfortunately.
And I think about this because, like my book that was written 26 years ago in, what's today, August 4th?
Yep.
In 3 days, it will be 26 years since my first attempt.
And what was it that drove you to that?
Being bullied, being raised in a Catholic children's home for 5 years, not knowing who my real father was, being in different school districts up until I graduated high school and went into the Navy, having some form of hazing when I was in the Navy. Not just in the book I talk about I just existed. I took up space on Earth for 36 years. I just considered myself an occupant of this airspace of my life. I didn't feel I had no purpose. I had many broken relationships, endless jobs. In fact, this is my last job, and it's number 58.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of jobs.
There's a lot of jobs.
And
but I'm not one who will take any stuff from people.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not being valued for who I really am and my character and my personality, then I'll go someplace else that does value. And this place, my last employment now, values me like family.
That's good.
So
that's good. And so this new book that you just wrote, it's about to come out everywhere. It's called My Dark Shadow, right? From suicidal to a purpose of hope.
Suicidal self to a purpose of hope. It's about my whole life. It's real. It's raw. Good, bad, and ugly, I tell people, from all the failures of life to all the successes, including having two sons, veteran and Marine veteran, now reserve, because he went back into the reserves,
mm-hmm.
to going to college later in life, being featured on a billboard for Jackson Community College for their campaign, their marketing campaign, Think Your Education Isn't Important, Think Again, to running for student body vice president at 50 years old at Eastern Michigan University. No, I did not win, but I got to participate in the forensic speech and debate team, which is a national, I believe almost 50 years. They have finished in the top 10 every year, including this past year. So it's all those stories of survival. It's all those connections, like joining the VFW, being in other organizations that have taught me leadership and purpose and value and equity, and making my life more a reason to stay around. And now I'm that beacon for hope. That's my speaking business, Beacon for Hope LLC, where I share not only my story, but I share and teach, help those in the audience learn and identify their God-given purpose, because we all have purpose. If you don't know that you really have purpose, then it's important to sit down and have a conversation, because if you're just existing, you're not thriving in your life, and as barriers impede your everyday, it's going to knock you down. It's going to put you on that fence of wanting to consider taking your life.
That's where we came up with the phrase, fall down 7, get up 8.
That's right.
Right? It doesn't matter how much you fall, as long as you keep getting back up on that horse. Sooner or later, you're going to make it further than what you made it before.
That's right.
And then you just keep stair-stepping and building on those. And when I had Shane in here just a minute ago, we were talking about the positive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We as Americans, and everybody falls down that trap of negative thinking. You know, there's a lot of people that love drama out there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But a good percentage of America would rather think negative than positive.
Right.
And when you fall into that hole and you're thinking nothing but negative, it's easy to want to go down that path to that dark road. Right?
It's really easy.
building on those positive outlooks, those positive steps. We start with one positive thing a day, move it to 2, move it to 3, and start building those up. What was it that you're talking about some of the organizations that have helped you, in building that positive step line, but what was it that finally decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to be the mental health for the VFW. Like what was it that got you striving to do that?
Stand with those who served. Join your local Michigan VFW, where veterans find support, purpose, and community. Learn more at vfwmi.org. That's vfwmi.org.
So part of it was I used to actually be a very shy introvert, believe that or not.
Okay.
Don't ask everybody in the VFW now because they'll tell me he doesn't know when to shut up. However, joining organizations like the JCs, joining Toastmasters, a communication leadership organization that teaches you how to find your voice. See, I never publicly announced to anybody until 8 years ago this coming September that I had ever attempted. My late mom, God rest her soul, has been gone 9 years now this last month. She never knew that I made one attempt. My stepdad never knew that I made one attempt until I publicly at a suicide prevention fundraising event took and announced it in part of my story that I shared. And since then, I continue to share it. I continue to speak at any organization that will have me, any organization that's interested in hiring me, any organization like the VFW. The VFW knows every single member, all 30-plus thousand VFW members in the state of Michigan and our auxiliary know that at any given hour, day or night, if they call, I'll take the call and listen, because I would rather take a call, lose 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep than to learn either through media or through a post announcement that this person last night took their life. Because that's how those statistics build up. And we know that even in our own VFW department here in Michigan, we lose 1, 2, 3 of our members every year to that.
No, I'm sure it's probably more than just 1, 2, or 3.
And it might be. This is where I come in. This is where it's important for those VFW posts across the state to reach out to me, to invite me in with the program, to teach them those coping mechanisms, the journaling, the mindfulness, the grounding, the deep breathing, things that I still use in my recovery to keep me grounded and keep me baseline. Those are the things. And now I've found purpose because my employer, people around me, other organizations. I mean, I'm the Jackson County Military Coalition Chair. We're getting ready to do our third Ruck to Remember Veteran Suicide here in 32 more days down in Jackson.
And what is that exactly?
So every year we've put on a 5K, and what we're doing is encouraging participants, those who are physically capable, to put on a backpack, fill it with up to 70 pounds of weight. If you want to donate canned goods to the food pantry, do so. But it's primarily for anyone, but it's for those non-veterans to get what it feels like that us veterans in active duty, how much weight we carry around every day, all those barriers in our life, all those negatives, all those drama, emotional charges that we carry around, get the feel of what the veteran or the active duty, remember right now, somewhere around this world, is carrying around. And maybe tonight they're going to decide, this is it. I've had enough. It's time to head on out and on out. And 17 to 42 to whatever it is. It doesn't matter. This is why I wear the silver to represent every veteran's life lost. I represent the teal to represent my own attempts, and I represent the blue beads, the beads of hope, to support the cause. And these beads will, and other colored beads, white, to represent loss of a child. We're going to have a young lady who I've served with and know she ended up taking and losing her son while on active duty to suicide, I believe 2 years ago. We're going to have her share from a mother's loss perspective what it means. So that's what this program, we're inviting all vendors who are veteran-focused, veteran and family-focused, to come out and set up a booth in the parking lot and have that conversation with the participants. Because if we can educate people about all the great resources out there, then we're doing a good part of reducing that number. Because when you're in a stump and you run in that corner, and that corner will stop you, and there's no resources, the only thing to do is take yourself out.
Yeah, and so that's why August 16th, we have the Gary Sinise Foundation coming to the VFW National Home. We're doing a 4-hour seminar for veterans and their families. And it's funny you mentioned journaling and how much that has helped you in the past. And I know for Jake Rademacher and his team, that's part of the workshop on August 16th. And so if you're a veteran out there and you don't have anything to do, Saturday, August 16th, at the VFW National Home from 12 to 5, can fit up to 400 people. It's a free event for veterans and their families. And a lot of this information that Doug is talking about is going to be there at that event as well, along with his September 6th event in Jackson at the 612 Eagles, and that's the Eagles Club. Yep,
Fraternal Order of Eagle. I'm also a past area president and past district council.
Boy, what don't
chair.
You do?
I don't sleep much. That's one true fact. Ask anyone, because that's what people ask. Do you ever rest? I say, well, somewhere between 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. is when I rest, and that's it. But, this event is, we're going to have a small car and motorcycle show. We're going to have vendors. We're going to have the Eagles Kitchen is going to be open to sell a small lunch-type menu. But we're just bringing in everybody. We're bringing in Foxhole. If you know Mo De La Toe from Foxhole, he's a Marine, and he teaches martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Of course he does. Why wouldn't he?
And it's funny because we saw our great city mayor get on the mats with him last year, and he found out that he probably could use Mo's class.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Yeah, as all of us. And anything we're doing, we're hoping to bring in some equine therapy. We're bringing in Secretary of State mobile office. We're bringing in military One Source, Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. Yep. We're bringing in any resource. And for those that are going to the August 16th, Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan Band, performed down in Fort Knox, Kentucky, last year when we were at the Louisville Convention, and I went over for the first time since 2004 and got to be on base and hear his band and everything. So it's a great cause, and the National Home is a press. It's mouth-watering, priceless.
And they'll also be given the tours as well.
Yes, it's great.
They always do that on every event that they do, so everybody can get a feel of what the National Home is, what they do for the veterans and their families now. Over the last 5 years, it's changed a little bit. It used to be for the children, but now they've opened it up to the whole families. So when did you decide to write My Dark Shadow? When did this book start equivalating into your head, saying...
Spring of 2018, I thought, I need to, everybody has a story in them. Everybody. It don't matter what your writing capabilities, you're getting stories from somebody that failed English class in high school. Of course, I did have 3 professional editors clean my thoughts up and put them in more succinct understanding. But I started in August or May, somewhere around May, June of 2018, and I just started writing thoughts down, and I started creating small chapters. And they're small chapters of 130 pages, and each chapter at the end has a quote from someone who the material can relate back to in that story that I've shared. I shared about my adoption. I shared about everything in my life. I'm very transparent in there. But a year and a half into the writing, I put it down because I had went through my certified peer support specialist training.
Is that the peer-to-peer support specialist for the state of Michigan?
Yes, certified.
So when I did that in 2012 with Pam Warner.
Yep. I'll be at the conference on Thursday this week.
Unfortunately, I have Lions Fest going on. But I actually went through that peer-to-peer support specialist program back in 2012 when I was running the Fight Continues. And I was going out to family readiness programs. And, I was selling some of the transitional programs that I still sell to this day. And, being a peer-to-peer support specialist, I see everything that you're doing, and what really hindered me was not knowing when to quit.
Right.
And unfortunately, after so many people have took that route of suicide, you start questioning yourself. Could I have done this? Could I have done that? And, the good old, attitude of suck it up and I'll just keep doing it. I'll just keep doing it. And you get burned out. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping now when they teach that peer-to-peer support specialist class that they not only teach the guy who's doing the peer-to-peer support when to recognize that. Because I think that's a huge piece. When
to warm transfer out. And when you get into that burnt point, it's important to have somebody tap in and take over so you can go take care of your mental health, because self-awareness of your own mental health is first and foremost. And yeah, it is. It's struggling. And so I put my writings down for about 3 years, because in the book, and I have disclaimers, in the book I share my methods, and we're learned that is not safe messaging. But my first editor, who's a retired Toastmaster, told me, if you don't take your reader all the way to the basement, all the way to the ground, all the way to the dark dirt of your life, they're not going to understand the hope at the point where you're at now, because they're not going. You've left them off at that first step. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take them all the way down where they've hit rock bottom, they're not truly going to understand. And so I put it down for a while and picked it up a year and a half ago. And then I finally got 200 and some pages put together. And then I found a publisher, Dorrance Publishing, out of Pittsburgh, and sent the rough draft manuscript in. And they say, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And that's where the story has started. And then I had to get permission from the National Adjutant's Office. Mark Gardino from the VFW National Headquarters, we had to get permission to use the cover because of my wearing my VFW service cap. Mm-hmm. And so we did. And there's a disclaimer in there to cover the VFW and all of its entities and everything. But what I hope... And the book is only $15. It's available at the Dorrance. It's available here in a few more weeks. It'll be available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble bookstores. I'll be doing book tours around the state. The purpose of the book is not to make me money. The purpose of the book is to save lives from suicide. That's the bottom line purpose. That's really what I want. If my messages of hope throughout that book can resonate with somebody right this very minute that's thinking today, August 4th, 2025, by midnight, I'm no longer going to be here because suicide's the only option. They need to read that book, because I can just about guarantee the $15 back that if I haven't changed your life for just a little bit of something positive. Because that's really what the message is. It's about being on the good side, being on the purposeful side, having the glass half full. Yes, we're struggling financially, housing, no car, no education, or whatever, whatever the list of barriers that's in your way. I've knocked them all down. Because when my mom passed, she taught me one thing: never take no for an answer. And that's how I've always been. That's how I approach everything. I'll find a way to go around. If the problem's in front of me, I'll find a way or make a way to go through it if I have to.
Yeah, those are good words of wisdom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people give up way too easily sometimes.
And that's what I did, 26 years ago. I don't know, I didn't have peer support. I didn't have resources. I didn't ask for help. That's the other thing. You got to lower your pride, especially us veterans. Mm-hmm. You got to lower your pride and say, hey, hello, over here. I'm waving my hand. I need help. I need mental help right now. Don't judge me.
Yeah,
that's what is needed.
Well, that's you got the 988 hotline. You've got the VA has their own hotline. There's hotlines all over the place, and they're not very hard to find out.
No, there are flaws in everything.
Of course,
but you know what? If people don't want to call 988, you call my personal cell. I'll take your call anytime, any day of the night. I talked to a young Marine in Wisconsin, didn't even know him, but somebody in Australia knew me that speaks on suicide, that's in Toastmasters.
Oh, okay.
Referred him to call me because his best friend in California was suicidal. He called a welfare check, and then his best buddies hating him for doing that, so then he became suicidal. He called me at 12:30 on a Wednesday morning. We talked to almost 3 a.m. I still went and got up and went to work at 8 a.m. the next day. Mm-hmm. But after that talk, he's now engaged to get married. He's in a healthy way of life and everything. He appreciated somebody taking more than just 10 minutes. I just did that last week. A veteran walked into one of our local VFW posts, very upset, emotionally charged, just hating life, wants to be happy. The post commanders gave him my number to call. We talked. We talked for probably a good hour plus. I encouraged, here's a few things what I encourage you to do. You don't have to, but I just passing on some information. He went to his primary the next day. Everything got straightened out, called me back, and he said, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. Because most people don't want to hear me cry and complain about life. They got their own lives to cry and complain about. They don't want to hear mine. And because I took more than 5 or 10 minutes, that was the change in his life, was taking enough time until we felt he was in a safe space to continue on.
That's good. That's good. And to be honest with you, a lot of time people just want an ear, right? And just being able to sit there and be that ear can mean a world of difference. And then after you become that ear and you start giving just those pieces of information that might have helped you, and especially when it's a veteran, it means a lot more. Because, you have those clinicians that have never served that have their thought process that we never lived.
They get the book out.
Yep, yeah, and
they don't have the lived experience. They do have their own experience, but they don't have lived experience. They didn't go get treated for their mental health challenges.
Right. And, if you're going to a psychologist and they want to put you on a medication right away, please look at what that medication side effects are. Because if you have traumatic brain injury and they put
military
you on
sexual
Wellbutrin
trauma, yeah,
or whatnot, that can cause suicidal ideations. There's
everything's causes now. But even now, you mentioned Derek earlier. We're on a charge to get doctors and psychiatrists and stuff to understand the physiology of those drugs. Don't give somebody 18 different psychotropic medications.
Yep.
Yes, there's a pill for everything. I know that. I get that. But you don't have to over-prescribe any kind of medication just because somebody's throwing you.
Trust me, I was on 12 at one point in time.
Yeah. And I was on.
That's no way to live.
Right. And I don't know. I can't recall. I think I was on 3 or 4 all at one time back during my attempts. Did they cause me to get worse on thoughts the second time? Because, yeah, a year and a half later, I did attempt again. I don't know. I'm not the chemist. I'm not the psychiatrist.
Right.
I'm the person that has survived and thriving now. And speaking of thrive, there is a phenomenal training program. It's called Thrive, and I would encourage anyone, veteran or non-veteran, to connect with veteran navigators through Walking with Warriors training. You'll be enlightened from that training. I've been to a lot of different suicide prevention trainings, but the one that I experienced with Thrive, it was just over the top. I learned a lot of different techniques and aspects that I didn't have in my toolbox before, and that's what I continue to do. I continue to immerse myself to get trained to, because it's like a mechanic. You take your car in, they know what the basics of what's wrong with your vehicle, but in order to do troubleshooting, they need to do a deeper diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Same with your mental health. They need to do a deeper diagnosis, and in these trainings that are offered for free or for limited funds, if it's going to save your life or someone close to you. And I'll close on this. My past post commander, 3 years ago while we were out in Phoenix, he lost his only son to cancer a year prior, 34 years old. The week prior, he took and gave his son's dog away, which is worldly possessions. The day before, he went out and purchased a handgun. And in the morning of, he went to the Ann Arbor VA crying for help. Somebody missed the signs, in my opinion, and he went out and took his life.
In the parking lot?
In the parking lot.
And, we were talking about, not only missing the signs, but that's happened throughout the nation over 15 times where veterans have done it in a VA system or in the parking lot of a VA. And one comes to mind of like, man, that person needed help and they were at the VA.
Right.
How is there not anybody at the VA that did not see that?
Yeah. I mean, I've taken a nonverbal communication class for 15 weeks at Eastern Michigan. So I've learned people's nonverbal behaviors, their facial expressions, knowing those 5 signs, knowing when you're fidgety all the time. If you don't go up and ask somebody that's not in the normal mindset, are you okay? Do you want to talk? And then if they, it's like safe talk. If they actually say, I'm thinking about killing myself, are you going to stay with them? Or are you going to validate a reason for them to take their life and walk away?
So are these kind of like the 5 nuggets that you talk about?
Yes. Yep, it's important to know those 5 signs of facial animation, because when you know someone at their best, when they're at their worst and you don't say something, that's what they're asking for. They may not say it verbally, but they're saying it with their face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're down at the ground and mopey and they're not that type of person, you got to step in and say something. Put your own darn personal agenda aside. And yeah, we're all busy with life. But if it take just 5 minutes extra, if you save their life from taking their life, the reward's going to come back 1,000-fold. And that's this book and everything that I'm doing. This is God's purpose now. You know, I tell people I'm in eighth life. I was hit by on a bicycle at 8 years old, nearly killed. 18. I went in the Navy, drove a ship through 40-foot waves, 20-foot swells, and 45-degree rolls en route to Beirut, Lebanon, in 1982 in the North Atlantic. Perished in Davy Jones's locker with 349 other shipmates. Then I come home. Then I survived 2 suicide attempts. And now I've survived Iraq and a near-fatal staph infection. I tell people I'm a human cat on 2 legs.
I was just going to say, a cat with 9 lives.
Literally. But this is my message for people out there right now. Somebody struggle. I can guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
I can guarantee it. There's
everywhere.
I can guarantee it. All the listeners in this listening area right now, there's at least one that's had the crappiest day, or the crappiest week, the crappiest year, and before school starts, they think, the heck with it. I don't need to be around for my kids. I don't need to be around for my wife or my girlfriend or boyfriend, whoever. I don't need to be around for my church family, my VFW family. And they're at that point right now that they're thinking, you know what? Nobody cares about me if I'm gone. Wrong. 19 people are affected when you take your life. Indirectly, 19 people. That doesn't count family. That's 19 people outside of your family. Be it your coworkers, be it family, church family, you know, your job, whoever. Mm-hmm. And that's why I help people create a hope box.
What is a hope box?
And it's filled with your most pridely possessions. And when you feel that you need to get in there and pull something out and hold it, like your baby's, your first child's clipping of hair or baby shoes, or 16th graduation birthday parties or whatever, anything that has priceless values, you take and reach in there and hold something. And if it doesn't change your perspective, then maybe you need to change your own situations of how you're reacting to those things. Because I look at it this way. I would have left now 29-year-old son. He would have been 3 years old without a dad. And I wouldn't have even had my second son if I would have completed the first time. Today, I would give my life for both of them because they've both taught me not just to be a father, but to be a dad. And that's what inspires me. And that's what I hope other people consider, is looking at everything you're thankful for compared to everything that you hate about life. I guarantee it, the thankful side should outnumber the hateful side. It really should. And if it doesn't, then we need to have a conversation and change that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it's totally inspiring. Any last shots across the bow before we end this podcast today?
So, yeah, I'll read just the, if I may, the very end of, the very talking point of what I've put on here. Have you lost hope in your life? Struggled finding purpose to live? For anyone, especially those who have ever felt the same, this heart-wrenching and inspiring memoir is a remember that there always is hope, My Dark Shadow from a Suicidal Self to a Purpose of Hope is a story of a man battling his own inner demons and finding hope and light on the other side. After a huge battle with suicidal thoughts, through connection, reflections, and community of support, he was able to overcome and lead a new life, finding joy in the new life around him. And I wear this band, and it's from Till Valhalla Project. And it says, "Do not give in to the war within." Well, that war, my victory of my 20 years, now 26 years, August 7th, 1999. There is a moment that I don't regret still being around for.
That's good. It's very inspiring, and this is stuff that everybody can do if they ever, feel like they're going down that hole. And so, Doug, I want to say thank you for coming on to Warfighters United. Thanks for all the great work that you're doing for not only our veterans, but for people across Michigan and, throughout the nation. When this book hits, I hope that a lot of people read it and get inspired about it. And if you guys want to learn more, I'm sure we'll be putting that stuff up on warfightersunited.com. Or you can listen to our podcast at Warfighters United Podcast on Facebook. Thank you very much for listening, and have an awesome night.
To speak with Eric Calley and Warfighters United, you can email him at eric@warfightersunited.com or call 517-699-0111.